Hi again, welcome back. We're going to continue our talk about traditional publishers, but I want to spend a little bit of time on a nuance talking about the different kinds. Because, yes, there's even different kinds of traditional publishers. And I think my boy Spango wants to join us. Bear with me a second. Come here. 1, 2, 3. Oof! Here we go. Here's Spango. You gonna help mommy? Okay. So, a lot of times, our dream is to get like one of the big three or big five publishing houses. And yes, aim high. I wouldn't want to discourage anyone, but just know that, particularly in fiction, it is extremely competitive, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with saying, all right, I'm going to aim for a big publishing house, but I'm also going to keep my options open and look at some of the like more middle range or small indie boutique publishers. So, and there's actually some benefit to going with smaller publishers. A lot of times with a and I've done both. I co-authored 3 books with a relatively small publisher. I authored a book with a pretty well-known publisher for that genre. All of that in nonfiction, and my fiction work is self-published. So I have some experience with the different angles of this. Um, and there's pros and cons to all of it. With a big publisher, usually there's more money involved, but that's not a guarantee. Sometimes they might have a certain budget that they're willing to take a risk on with, especially a new author, whereas a smaller place might be really, really eager for your book, and maybe they'll put a little bit more money into it because they know that most people try to go for the big publishers. Another benefit with a smaller publisher is that often, not always, but often you might feel like you're getting more personalized attention. Then, in a bigger publisher, you might kind of feel lost in the shuffle. That was not my feeling in my experience. I had really great experiences with both smaller and large in terms of like the ability to communicate with them and get a response and things like that. But I've heard that being the case for others, so that is something to consider. Um, so sometimes there's a benefit to kind of going with a less well-known publisher. Also, it gives you a chance to kind of grow and go up the ladder if that's something that's important to you. Um, Another thing to keep in mind, I mentioned advances in the previous video. In my experience with a smaller publisher, they didn't do advances. Um, and there's again, pros and cons to everything. So the publisher that did an advance, what people don't always understand is they do an advance against your future royalties. So that means you get X amount of money, and when your book has sold X dollars worth of royalties, then you start getting in royalties. So it's a gamble, because if your book never sells out your advance, you never get royalties. So it's a good thing you get that amount up front, and usually it's not a huge amount, but it's a good thing you get that amount up front. So again, if you hear about somebody getting like a $50,000 advance, that sounds great, but if their book doesn't sell $50,000 worth of royalties, they don't get any royalties, and that is all they get. So something to keep in mind. With the smaller publishers that didn't offer an advance, you just start getting the royalties when you get the royalties. Um, what do you smell, baby? Are you sniffy something? Yes. Okay. Sorry, squirrel. So I might as well bring it up here. There's also something called, you might hear them called hybrid publishers or vanity publishers. I have strong feelings about that. I'll try not to bring into this. I don't know if my facial expression just gave it away, but I have some feelings about that. Basically, a traditional publisher pays you for your book. Let me just put him down. Sorry. They pay you for your book. They should not charge you for your book. If a publisher reaches out to you and is basically recruiting you to publish your book, and they're like, oh, we'll do this and this and this, and it'll cost you $4,000 or whatever, that's more likely it's either a scam, or it's a hybrid, or what is sometimes called a vanity publisher. Um, those are a really good option for people who want the published feel and experience, and some of the benefits of a traditional publisher, but maybe don't have the time to send out 60 query letters, or time to get an agent, or time to submit to all these different publishing houses. I didn't mention this yet. I should mention it now. It can be tedious. So what I do is I make an Excel spreadsheet, and if when I was looking for an agent, which I was at one point, I'm not currently. I started researching, who are the agents that represent similar titles. This is what they say to do. Go to the bookstore or the library, look at similar titles to the book you're working on. Look in the dedications or the acknowledgments section, and they usually thank their agent. Make note of the agent's name, go to their website, find out how they want to be queried. If they're taking new queries, every agent has different things they want, and if you don't do exactly what they want, they will ignore you. So, they do not think you're special. Like, they don't care how creative you are. You're not going to impress them. They get hundreds a day query letters. So you really need to look at their website, find out exactly what they want, give them only what they want, and you'll probably never hear back from them. And I don't say this to be negative, but it's the truth. If you hear back from an agent, especially with feedback, that's a really great thing. It was always really exciting to hear back from an agency like, oh, we considered this, but ultimately decided, blah, blah, blah. Like, if they give you a little bit more personal than just a standard reply, like, that's pretty good. I mean, ultimately you want them to work with you, but, the point is you might query 100 agents and finally get one, or not get one at all. So it's a lot of work. And then if you bypass the agent and you just want to go directly and try to publish, again, make a spreadsheet, keep track of, the name of the publisher, their website. I would actually copy and paste the criteria right into the spreadsheet so I could have it with me when I was filling out each one. Because again, each publisher wants a different thing. And they use that they use it to fit their specifications. They also use it to rule people out. If you didn't bother to follow their instructions, they will ignore you. Because again, they get hundreds of queries a day. So it makes it easy for them to put you on the slush pile if you sent a hard copy instead of emailing, or if you didn't put the specific thing in the subject line that they're looking for. So I know I make this sound really difficult, and it is, but it can be worth it, so I'm not trying to discourage you. Just know that it's like a whole process. And again, you might send dozens or even hundreds of submissions to publishers before you find one or find a good fit. So you really want to, if you want to go that path, you want to take your time, do your homework, and pay close attention to those details. So part of the reason some people like hybrid or vanity publishers is it kind of bypasses a lot of those hoops that you jump through. The downside is you pay. So with that kind of press, you pay to have their name on your book. There are usually it's like a la carte, or there's like different levels, like premium, like, silver, gold, bronze, or that kind of thing, different levels of service that you pay for. And you pay for things like they copyright your book, they put the ISBN on your book, they design the cover, they do the interior design. All of that is important because you want your book to look professional. So for some people who have the money, and it can be pricey, it can be like, years ago it was like in the, $5,000 or more range, it's probably more now. If it's worth it to you and you have the money, it is one way to go. It is not the only way to go, and there are limitations because again, a publisher, a traditional publisher, while they're not going to pay for all of your travel usually, or they're not going to pay for all of your advertising, usually they give you a leg up with some. With a vanity press or a hybrid publisher, they don't really do those things. They format your book for you. They help you tidy up your product, and they might have some distribution, but a lot of what they charge you to do, you can do yourself. It just takes some steps. But the steps it takes are not as many as the steps of getting a publisher or an agent. So that's one of the things that I help people with. I can help walk you through those steps when you're ready for it. And airplane, sorry, it's loud. And get you to the point where you have the finished product and then get your product into distribution. You can do all the things a hybrid publisher would do for you in self-publishing. You can't always do all the things a traditional publisher can do for you because again, they have some contacts that you just might not have. They have some reach that you just might not have. But a hybrid publisher isn't going to go all out for you. So when it comes to hybrid versus self-publishing, it's pretty much an even playing field in terms of clout and credibility. The main difference is they can they can expedite the process of making your book pretty and having it available, and then you do the rest of the legwork that you would basically do anyway if you're self-publishing. So also, be careful, because sometimes these hybrid publishers are like a subsidiary of a well-known publisher. So there's one that's like it's like Simon and Schuster's self-publishing arm. So people get all excited because they're like, oh, this makes it like Simon and Schuster. Well, no, not really. It makes you it gives you a label that is affiliated with Simon and Schuster, but you pay for that label. And again, if you have the money and that's important to you, that's okay to do that. So that's a little bit about hybrid and traditional publishing.